Today's recipe is one of our most popular recipes. It's a very simple chocolate cake. Wait till you see how simple, you're not gonna believe it. We're starting with 3/4 of a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, not the Dutch process. Well, you can, but you don't need to. It's just regular old cocoa powder, unsweetened, with 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. I'm sifting them together. Cocoa powder actually is kind of lumpy, and so when recipes call for cocoa powder, I have a tendency to go ahead and sift them. I don't use a sifter, I just use a sieve. Then add a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm using kosher salt, so I'm gonna go ahead and use a 1/2 teaspoon. Sift. I don't know if you can see it, but there are a bunch of lumps in there. You don't want those in there, and they don't break up that well with a whisk, which is why I'm using this method today. Okey-doke. I have 1½ sticks of room temperature butter, and to that I'm adding 1 cup of granulated sugar. And you want to cream until light and fluffy. If you don't have a stand mixer, a hand mixer works great for this recipe as well. Then add a teaspoon of vanilla extract and 3 eggs. You're going to want to beat them in one at a time for proper mixing. So crack your egg into a bowl just in case it's a bad egg, and then add to your mixture. Have your oven preheating to 350 degrees so that it is ready for your cake when your cake is ready for it. And then you can gradually beat in your dry ingredients and alternate that with, I'm just turning this off because there's cocoa powder in this. If this flies on me, it's never coming off. You're gonna alternate the dry ingredients with 1/2 cup of sour cream, so 1/4 cup at a time. If you don't have sour cream and you have buttermilk, you can use buttermilk. You can use yogurt. Don't use vanilla yogurt. Your cake will be too sweet. I often use yogurt instead of sour cream or instead of buttermilk because I don't generally have buttermilk or sour cream in my house, but I almost always have plain yogurt. So if it's calling for buttermilk, I mix my yogurt with milk. And if it's calling for sour cream, I just go ahead and use the yogurt in its place. And just beat in the final flour mixture. That's it, that's the batter. This is an 8-inch cake pan that has been buttered and lined with parchment and then buttered again and dusted with cocoa powder. You can dust with flour, but cocoa powder is the same color as the cake, so it won't show up on the final cake. You wanna know a secret though? I mean, I did do this with cocoa powder, but often when I'm doing it at home, I just do it with flour because cocoa powder is really messy to dust cake pans with. I just prefer less mess. When in doubt, I go for less mess. Don't tell anyone. Give it a final stir so that you make sure everything is fully combined. I see that there's some butter on the bottom that didn't get combined, so I'm just going to stir that in by hand into the pan. Into the pan, smooth the top. You want to get some air bubbles, just hang it on the counter a few times, and then into your 350 oven. You want to bake it until a cake tester inserted in the center comes out clean. That'll take about 30-35 minutes. To serve your cake, yeah, you could eat it just straight up, but why not put a nice glaze on it? So I'm making a ganache glaze. This is 4 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate, and I have some cream heating. It's a 1/2 cup of cream. That's it. That's all that's in a ganache. Bring your cream to a boil. Be careful, don't let it boil over. And pour over your chocolate. Let it sit for a minute, maybe 2 minutes. You just want to let the chocolate start softening so that when you whisk it, it will dissolve. Shouldn't take too long though. By the way, the cake has come out of the oven. You let it sit in the pan for about 10 minutes to cool, turn it out, remove the parchment paper and let it cool completely on a rack, which is what's going on right in front of me. Whisk until it's completely smooth and silky and delightful. If you really like this recipe and want more like this, click like and subscribe. Okay, the cake is on a wire rack. That'll allow the ganache to drip underneath, and if you want to, you can scoop it back up and use it again. Pour it over the top. Smells so chocolatey. Love it. Love it. Smooth it over the top and let it drip down the sides. It doesn't have to be even. That's not the point here. If it looks a little drippy, that's okay. You want to have most of this chocolate stay on your cake. But like I said, if it drips down underneath onto the pan underneath, you can always scoop it back up, heat it up just a tiny bit, and put it over again if you want to. But this is a pretty thick ganache, so it's not oozing too much. Now you can't eat it right away because it'll be a big mess. You have to let it set. I would say put it into the fridge for about 15 minutes and you're good to go. But if you want to make this ahead, you can leave it in there for up to a day. Isn't that elegant? I think it's so beautiful. And if you could smell the chocolatiness that's wafting up at me, you would be so jealous right now. I'm going to cut myself a tiny little slice so you can see how amazing it is. Hasn't been in the fridge very long, so the glaze is still a little bit soft. You probably want to leave it in until it's completely set. It turns into sort of like a little bit matte as it sets. But I was ready to try it. Sprinkle with some chocolate shavings. Actually, you could sprinkle the whole top if you wanted to. And how about a spoon of cream on top? I always say yes to a little spoon of whipped cream because it's one of my favorite foods. And that's it, it's done. Extremely simple, and you'll see why it's one of our most popular recipes. It's dense and chocolatey and delightful. Enjoy. Hi guys, as some of you may have noticed, we're getting close to 1 million subscribers. Isn't that amazing?
It's awesome. So if you guys like our shows and you want to see more videos like these,
make sure you subscribe to our channel by clicking here.
Or click here to check out more great recipes on marthastewart.com.